What's up, everybody? Today I want to really quickly go over a scan that I like to use. I may have made a video on this in the past, but I'm going to do it with you live just so you can get through, kind of like hear my thought process on when I look for individual setups. We're going to be searching for hammer candles. What's a hammer candle? Well, a hammer candle can act as a reversal candle. Doesn't mean that it always does, but really what we're looking for is this guy. Right? It has this long lower shadow because it could typically can turn into a reversal type move. You can see here the price action is going down, and you get this hammer candle forming after a big red bar, and then as soon as it crosses through this line, we get some form of momentum up. So we're going to be looking for hammer candles, and sometimes you run into interesting setups. Even that might not be where the candle is formed at the bottom of a pullback. So we'll kind of go over a couple that I posted the other day, like NGD was, I found that on this little quick scan here. So let's go ahead and go over to finviz.com, and I'll show you what I like to do. So this is finviz.com. You can head over to the screener tab, and then what I like to do is you can just hit the tab that says all, candlestick, you go ahead and hit hammer. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. So I'm going to show you this first. Okay, this is I've showed this plenty of times where you just show straight up hammer candle, but I actually like to use another one because not all hammer candles are perfect, right? So this is looking for perfect hammer candle. So if I go over to hit the tab that says basic and hit this type that says candle, you can see that the candles that formed right here are perfect hammer candles, right? So like NIO, okay, so it's been pulling back and now we formed a little hammer candle. The next thing that I like to look for is a big pull of volume. If you get a big spike in volume, that's even more of a sign like, okay, now we might potentially bounce from this area. Take a look at AMD. AMD, we've been talking about this on previous ones. It's been kind of getting on this rip to the downside. I got stopped out of my position on AMD. However, if you take a look at this, yeah, you can just draw a trend line for me here, maybe even right from here. And we formed a nice hammer candle. The volume's been drying up. If we start bouncing and getting above this previous high of this candle, we might see some forward action moving up, especially if we can break the trend line. If you just draw a trend from right here through here, and then you watch for a break above that on high volume. So that hammer candle might initiate a bounce. The hammer candle also formed right at a level of support. You can see is previously a support right here. And then also this hammer candle also filmed right at support. Now, when I look at this, I like to double click the volume. I think I've already said that, and where you get the most highest volume liquid ones up front. And I only look at really the top 10, the top 20 list. I don't really go too far deep into it. You can if you want. That's totally fine. But really what I like to do is look at the highest liquid stocks, because typically what you'll see is you'll see more price action kind of follow through. Now, or more price action, more volume continue to the next day. Whereas if you're at like the very end of the list, well, first off, like 700, you don't ever want to touch anything that only has that much volume, But let's go somewhere where it's like 48,000. You'll get a bunch of random names. Not to say that you can't trade these. Just know that it's illiquid. So if you make a bigger position, there might be bigger spreads between the two, so you're not going to get that great of a entry point. I like to look around $1 million plus, but I don't mind going to around, as low as 300, 200,000, right around there, as long as the spreads between the bid and the ask are fairly tight. So if I go to the first page and I just hit that basic tab again, and we're going through them, like, so for example, NIO, nice hammer candle, formed right in area support. Wouldn't be surprised to see a follow through bounce. Okay. So I would like to see more volume kind of, uptick on that. Right here, Tesla, huge hammer candle on good volume, and it bounced right at this, just above 700 at this area of support. So we'll see what kind of follows through on that. These are not the type of trades where I just enter in right away. I'd like to see some follow through and get above the high of the candle itself. Here's one DAL. This is the Delta Airlines, and you can see here a nice hammer candle formed. You have a spike of volume previous to that, not a huge stick of volume, but it's above average, above the 10-day, maybe even more average of volume. And if you just take a look, there's clear resistance right here at 42, 42, 42, and the bulls are kind of trying to make momentum get up here. So if we get a break above 42, that can actually be pretty good for Delta Airlines, and maybe potentially even other airlines if you take a look at them. You got right here, Root, another little hammer candle that formed at $6, and we've seen some volume come in too as well. So, you know, and you can see from here, the bulls have been making progress. A low, a higher low, a higher low. This could be potentially a higher low. So they're trying to get above, you know, this kind of range out here. So that could be potentially also a little intraday trade there too as well, or, you know, or even a longer hold. And then you got SQ. SQ also, this is a pretty large hammer candle, not on like insane volume by any means, but on a nice pullback. And where did we pull back to? Well, we pulled back into prior resistance and support, this kind of zone in here. You can see 240 if you just look to the left. Like we bounced from those levels before. So, you know, perhaps we get a follow through bounce. It's not guaranteed, but you can at least be like, okay, maybe if you zoom in on like the 15-minute time frame or the 5-minute time frame, and you want to say, okay, the high of this day right here, does it even show me? I don't know. A high, yeah, 248.84. So if it gets above, just say 249, perhaps it might get a little pop to, you know, 250, 251, 252, 253, and then you can catch a couple dollars per share there. Okay, so that's the first page, but on just looking at the hammer candle. So I like to do that very frequently. The next one I like to look at is just the long lower shadow. So this indicates that it's a hammer candle most likely, as you can see, but they're not like this shaved head type candle. There could be a little upper wick. And as soon as I do that, let's look at the top of the list. And what we see here is PLTR. PLTR, we've already posted in Trade Ideas prior, and we've had resistance, and then we've been kind of cupping right here, and you can see some good volume spikes, and now we have a hammer candle right here. Perhaps this hammer candle is going to give us some juice to try to bounce from this area and break out of these previous swing highs. So that's something to watch out for. This one looks very good. Look how choppy how choppy CCL is. This is Carnival Cruise. First, this could be a rising wedge or a bear flag right here. But look at just green, red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green. And this is a nice hammer candle. Where did it happen? Well, it formed with more volume, so a little uptick in volume. And then it's also at a trend, so an area of support. We have a high, we have a low, a higher low, and now we have a candle forming, a hammer candle at another higher low. So the bulls are stair-stepping up right here. They're also putting in higher highs. Perhaps we start cracking above this previous high right here, which is $23.48, and that could push us to get back above 24, and that could be actually a good little setup. This has been very erratic type price movement, so just be mindful of that. And there's been a lot of false breakouts. You know, the lists of the bearish stuff can go on and on. But if you take a look, 24 has been a level of resistance here and here and here, but it's also acted as support here, here, and here. So if we can get above 24 on a strong volume, that actually could signal, okay, we might see the price of CCL continue higher. And like I said, these are just trade ideas. I'm just walking you through them live, that, you know, what I see. Let's take a look at a couple more. This is the IWM. IWM is obviously, I do the stock market briefs with this, but a nice big hammer candle formed here on big volume. And where did it go? Right in the center of the channel at 220. So let's see if we get some follow through right there. This could be potentially flagging, you know, a strong move up. Price is getting digested. Let's see what happens here. Tilray, TLRY, a little hammer candle at a prior area of kind of support. It's kind of at a low. It's a little not that big of a hammer candle, or a long lower shadow candle right there, but something to maybe watch. You could technically watch a trend line drawing from here down to here. And if we start cracking above that $14 range, that could be good. HPE, you can, you know, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of blood in the streets right here with uptick in volume, so it's been really falling hard. This is Hewlett-Packard, but now we formed a little hammer candle on some strong volume. Where did we finish that at? Prior area of support. Interesting. So perhaps, you know, we ramped up higher. We bounced from this level, this 1450, and then we really ran up higher. Now we're coming down. It looked really bearish, but the bulls stepped back in. Hammer candle forming on volume next to support. Hey, this actually looks like it could potentially see a little bit of a bounce. So HPE would be something that you can watch, and you could technically form this as just a steep pullback, maybe a falling wedge, you know, just depending on how you draw it. But what you would do is you would wait to see if you can get above the high, so 1438. If we can get above that, maybe even take out 1450, that round number, that could be a really good sign where we see a little relief rally. and then it might head lower, but it doesn't mean that we can't see relief rallies even if it starts heading lower. Let's keep going down. We have XLI. That's another one that I like to just kind of do on the market briefs. This is the industrials ETF. Hammer candle formed with a little bit more volume, nothing crazy, but at a previous area of support. So this could also present itself as a potential bouncing area too. But what you want to do is you want to wait till price can get above the high of those candles and play into that. Now look at NCLH. Here's another cruise line. This is Norwegian Cruise Lines. You have a long lower shadow hammer candle right here. And you have clearly 26 was resistance. You had all this chop, could be distribution, could be accumulation, who knows? I doubt it's accumulation at this particular point in time because we don't see any big spikes in volume. But what you are seeing is price action. The bulls are putting in a low, a higher low, a higher low, and a higher low, stair-stepping their way up to 26. So this could be what's called as an ascending triangle. And if we get above 26, it might present itself as a big pop. Clearly, there's some supply there. So what we need to see is demand, more shares being bought, than supply. Okay, and if demand outweighs supply, then we're going to see it pop through 26. Resistance, and it acts as support. So if we can get above there, we might see a squeeze higher. It's very possible. As far as the short float goes, this could be a very good play. And the reason why is because the short float, bam, is at 13.2323. So anything above 10% would be something to really watch because you can get short squeezes. In 26, I mean, if I was a short seller right here of Norwegian Cruise Line, my stop would be above 26, just above these highs. Okay, maybe give it a little room to shake. That's where my stop would be. So if the price action gets up there and I'm stopped out on a short position, that means that I have to buy back my shares. So then you take into account, you have short coverings, okay? So you have people have to cover their shorts. That means they have to buy. And then you have breakout traders. They're going to buy. And then you have potentially a momentum traders kind of stepping in to see or add in more fuel to that fire on a breakout. Okay, and then after that point, then you have the people that chase into it, and then typically you get the more professional traders sell into that action because they come in a little bit too late. So that is another one to watch out for if we start breaking above 26. Here's PINS, Pinterest. Also, I have nothing against Pinterest at all. This thing is actually looking it doesn't look all too great, obviously, with this big gap down. And, if I applied some moving averages, probably in some very bearish context, as we've seen on some of these charts. But what I would look at here, I like the hammer candle that formed, at a previous area of support. The only thing that scares me is sometimes these big gap downs. That could have been an earnings gap down. I can't quite remember. But we have a nice, a little bit more uptick in volume on a hammer candle. If I were to draw a trend line from just this high through this high, down, I would be watching for a breakout above that on good volume, because if that takes place, we might get some more fuel. And then I would consider taking profits right at around 60, because 60, clearly there's an area of resistance right here. And if there is still resistance there, that means there'd be more supply. So if the price action gets up here, that's still $5 per share move, which is a great gain, especially if you're going to have a stop just below the low of this weekly candle. I guess I'll just do run here really quick too. Run, a big uptick in volume right here, so that's nice. You can see a trend line kind of just sloping straight down. So a break above that could send this one higher. And this has a high short float too, 18% short float. So if you get the squeeze on with something like this, you might have a few days of it running. So yeah, those are just a couple random scans that I like to do. It's really simple. I look at the first page of highest volume to lowest volume of both the hammer and the long lower shadow, and I try to look for setups that have maybe pulled back into an area of support and they're forming on more volume to just signal that, hey, a bounce might be coming, and we saw a couple of those today. So I hope that helps out. Once again, I will see you guys here soon. I don't know if I'm going to be posting a market brief today, but I shall be on it tomorrow. So I will see you all later.